Ethan Cole had everything: money, power, influence, but none of it had ever taught him how to be truly seen. At 32, he was the quiet heir to one of the largest real estate development companies in the city. A man whose name opened doors before he ever knocked. Yet when he looked in the mirror each morning, he saw someone invisible behind tailored suits and polished smiles. People admired his wealth, envied his success, but no one ever looked at him as just Ethan. That emptiness followed him everywhere, especially after the last woman he dated admitted she had only stayed because of the lifestyle. The decision to pretend he was poor wasn't planned. It happened one rainy afternoon when Ethan ducked into a small neighborhood cafe to escape a board meeting he no longer cared about. His driver waited outside, the luxury car hidden by the rain, while Ethan stepped inside wearing nothing but a plain jacket and worn sneakers. The cafe was warm, simple, and alive with quiet conversations. No marble floors, no suits, no expectations. That's when he saw her. She stood behind the counter wiping her hands on her apron, her dark hair tied loosely, strands falling around her face. Her smile wasn't forced, wasn't polished. It was real. When she laughed, it filled the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. Ethan ordered a coffee, and when she handed it to him, their fingers brushed. She looked up and smiled again, not knowing who he was, not caring either. "Long day?" she asked casually. No one ever asked him that without an agenda. "Yeah," he replied, surprised by how honest the word felt. "You?" She shrugged. "Same as always, but coffee helps." She winked, and something inside Ethan shifted. For the first time in years, he felt normal. Her name was Lena. Over the next few weeks, Ethan kept coming back. Same cafe, same table, same simple clothes. He told himself it was curiosity, but deep down, it was relief. Lena treated him like any other customer. No flattery, no fascination. They talked about books, music, dreams she had put on hold while working 2 jobs. She assumed he was struggling too, because he never corrected her when she said things like, "We're all just trying to survive, right?" And that's when the lie began. When Lena asked what he did for work, Ethan hesitated only a second before saying, "I do odd jobs. Construction, repairs, whatever I can get." The words tasted strange but freeing. She nodded with understanding, not judgment. "That's honest work," she said. "Most people don't even try." That night, Ethan lay awake in his penthouse, staring at the ceiling he rarely noticed. He should have told her the truth. He knew that. But the fear of becoming invisible again, of watching her eyes change once she knew, kept him silent. With Lena, he wasn't a billionaire. He was just a man buying coffee, listening, laughing. And for the first time, that felt like everything. Their friendship grew naturally. He helped her fix a broken shelf at the cafe. She brought him leftovers when she noticed he always ordered the cheapest items. One evening she invited him to walk home with her. The streets were quiet, the city glowing softly around them. She talked about her childhood, about losing her mother young, about how she never trusted people who flashed money because they always want something back. Those words lodged deep in Ethan's chest. As days turned into weeks, feelings crept in. Slow, dangerous, undeniable. He admired her kindness, her resilience, the way she believed in small joys. Lena didn't dream of luxury. She dreamed of peace. And Ethan, surrounded by excess, realized he had never truly had that. When he finally asked her to dinner, it wasn't at a restaurant with chandeliers and wine lists. It was a street food stall with plastic chairs and laughing strangers. Lena loved it. She laughed with sauce on her fingers, eyes shining, completely unaware that the man across from her could have bought the entire block without blinking. That night, when she rested her head on his shoulder, Ethan felt something terrifying and beautiful. Hope, but the lie was growing heavier. Every time Lena talked about struggling with rent, Ethan had to bite his tongue. Every time she apologized for not being able to afford nicer things, his chest ached. He wanted to fix everything, but he knew the moment he did, the illusion would shatter. Would she still look at him the same way if she knew the truth? Or would he become just another rich man in her eyes, distant, untouchable? One evening, Lena looked at him seriously and said, "I like you because you're real. You don't pretend to be something you're not." The irony almost crushed him. Ethan smiled, nodded, and said nothing, because pretending to be poor had given him something money never could, a genuine connection, and he was falling for her in ways he never imagined. But lies, no matter how gentle, always demand a price, and Ethan was about to learn just how high that price could be. Ethan didn't realize how deeply he had fallen until Lena stopped showing up for 3 days straight. The cafe felt different without her, quieter, heavier, like a song missing its melody. He sat at his usual table, pretending to read, but his eyes kept drifting to the counter, waiting for her smile to appear. When he finally asked one of the other workers if she was okay, the girl sighed. Double shifts at the bookstore. Rent went up again. The words struck Ethan harder than he expected. Rent going up was an inconvenience to most people. To Lena, it was a threat. He left the cafe that day with a knot in his chest, his mind racing with solutions he wasn't supposed to have. He could fix this with a phone call, a signature, a silent transfer. But he didn't, because helping her that way would expose everything, and he was terrified of losing what they had built. When Lena finally returned, she looked exhausted, but still smiled when she saw him. "Sorry I disappeared," she said, pouring his coffee before he even ordered. Life got loud. He wanted to say he could help. Instead, he said, "I'm glad you're back." They began spending more time together outside the cafe. Walks after her shifts, cheap takeout eaten on park benches, quiet evenings listening to music on her old radio. Lena never complained, never asked for more than she had. That was what Ethan admired most. She found joy in moments, not things. With her, he learned how happiness could exist without luxury, how laughter didn't need expensive settings. One night, rain trapped them under a bus stop shelter. Lena shivered, hugging herself. Without thinking, Ethan pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her. She looked up at him, eyes soft. "You always notice the small things," she said. "That matters more than money." Those words burned into him. Lena talked openly about her fears, being stuck, being forgotten, trusting the wrong person. Ethan listened, careful with his words, hiding entire worlds behind simple sentences. He told her about growing up lonely, about feeling unseen, all of it true except the part that mattered most. He wasn't lying about his pa. Just the source of it. As weeks passed, affection turned into love, slow and sincere. Lena reached for his hand more often. She leaned into him during movies. One night, as they sat on her small apartment floor sharing noodles, she looked at him seriously. "Ethan, what are we?" The question made his heart pound. He could walk away. He could tell the truth. Instead, he whispered, "I care about you. A lot." She smiled, relief washing over her face, and kissed him gently. That kiss wasn't dramatic or rushed. It was warm, careful, full of trust. Ethan kissed her back, feeling both joy and guilt twist together inside him. He was in love, with her honesty, her strength, her belief that people were more than what they owned. But the deeper his feelings grew, the more dangerous the lie became. One evening, Ethan arrived late, distracted by a tense phone call from his company's board. Lena noticed immediately. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," he lied automatically. She frowned. "You don't have to pretend with me." The words hit too close. He forced a smile, changing the subject, but Lena wasn't convinced. She had grown up reading people, sensing when something was off. She began to notice things, the way Ethan never worried about medical bills, how he always paid in cash without checking his wallet, how his hands were too clean for a man who claimed to do construction. Still, she didn't accuse him. She trusted him. And that trust felt heavier than any secret he had ever carried. The breaking point came when Lena's landlord announced another rent increase. She tried to laugh it off, but Ethan saw fear in her eyes. That night, he paced his penthouse, torn apart by the urge to protect her. By morning, he made a decision, not to reveal the truth, but to bend the lie further. "I heard about a room opening up," he told her casually. "Cheaper, safer." She hesitated. "How did you hear it?" "About it? Friend of a friend," he said. It was one of his buildings. When Lena moved, grateful and relieved, Ethan helped carry boxes up the stairs, pretending not to recognize the place he owned. She hugged him tightly afterward. "I don't know what I'd do without you," she whispered. He closed his eyes, guilt burning behind them. The lie was no longer harmless. It was shaping her life. And yet, Lena loved him, not for what she thought he could give her, but for who she believed he was. A struggling man with a kind heart, a partner who understood hardship, someone safe. Ethan realized something terrifying then. If he told the truth now, he wouldn't just reveal his wealth. He would shatter the man she fell in love with, and somewhere deep inside, he wondered whether the real Ethan, the rich one, deserved her at all. Lena first realized something was wrong on a morning that should have been ordinary. She was locking up her apartment when a sleek black car pulled up across the street. The kind you only saw in movies or outside five-star hotels. The driver stepped out, glanced around, then checked his phone. Lena frowned. The car didn't belong in her neighborhood, and yet it stayed there, engine idling, polished and out of place. She shrugged it off and went to work, but the image lingered in her mind. Ethan had been distant lately, not unkind, just distracted. He smiled, laughed, listened, but there were moments when his eyes drifted somewhere far away, as if he were holding back words too heavy to speak. Lena felt it in the pauses, in the way he stiffened when his phone buzzed, in the careful way he avoided certain questions. She trusted him, but trust didn't silence intuition. That afternoon, a customer at the cafe mentioned a major real estate deal on the news. Some billionaire just bought half the river district, the man said casually. Lena barely listened until she eared the name, Ethan Cole. Her hand froze around the coffee pot. She laughed it off at first. Coincidences happened. Rich men had common names. Still, unease settled in her chest. That night, she searched the name online. The man staring back at her from the screen was undeniably Ethan. Same eyes, same quiet expression, different world. Her heart dropped. Photos showed him in tailored suits, standing beside skyscrapers, shaking hands with politicians. Headlines praised his intelligence, his success, his empire. There was no mention of odd jobs, no construction work, no struggle. The man she loved, the man who claimed to understand hardship, was worth more money than she could imagine. Lena felt sick. Memories replayed in her mind with new meaning. The cash payments, the way problems seemed to disappear, the apartment, the car, the lies. By the time Ethan arrived at her place that evening, she had already packed her emotions into a cold, guarded shell. She let him in, her smile stiff. "Everything okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Sit, he did." "Tell me the truth," she said quietly. "Who are you?" Ethan's chest tightened. This was the moment he had feared. He opened his mouth, closed it, then whispered, "I can explain." "Are you Ethan Cole?" she asked. Silence. That was answer enough. The hurt in her eyes shattered him. "Why?" she demanded, voice trembling. "Why lie to me?" He stood, hands shaking. "Because every time people know who I am, they stop seeing me. You didn't. You loved me when you thought I had nothing." Tears welled in her eyes. "You took away my choice," she said. "You let me believe we were equals." "I never thought I was better than you," he said desperately. "I just wanted to be real with you." "But you weren't," she replied. "Not completely." The betrayal cut deep, not because he was rich, but because he had let her trust him under false pretenses. Lena had given him her fears, her dreams, her heart, and he had hidden behind a mask. "Leave," she said. Ethan didn't argue. He knew he didn't deserve forgiveness. Not yet. Days passed without contact. Lena went through the motions of life, numb and angry. She questioned every memory, every laugh, every moment of vulnerability. Had any of it been real? Or was she just another experiment for a lonely rich man? Ethan, meanwhile, unraveled. The penthouse felt colder than ever. Money meant nothing without her. He replayed her words over and over. "You took away my choice." He realized then that love built on a lie, no matter how gentle, still broke trust. He wrote her letters he never sent, apologies without excuses, admissions without defense. Then something unexpected happened. Lena's bookstore closed suddenly. No warning, no severance. She found out through a locked door and a handwritten sign. Panic set in. Bills didn't pause for heartbreak. She swallowed her pride and applied everywhere, exhaustion creeping back into her bones. That's when an offer appeared. Anonymous funding for small businesses affected by closures. Her cafe owner received it. So did the bookstore's staff. No names attached, just help. Lena suspected the truth. She didn't want charity. She wanted honesty. A week later, she stood outside Ethan's office building, heart pounding. The security guard recognized her immediately and ushered her in. She took the elevator up, each floor carrying more weight than the last. Ethan looked up when she entered. Hope and guilt collided in his eyes. "I'm not here for money," she said before he could speak. "I'm here for answers." He nodded. "You deserve them." He told her everything. About growing up isolated. About being loved for his wealth. About choosing to hide because he was afraid of being alone again. He didn't justify his lie. He owned it. "I fell in love with you, Pret. Ending to be poor," he said. "But the truth is, I've never been more honest about who I am inside." Lena listened, arms crossed, heart aching. When he finished, she said softly, "I didn't love you because you were poor. I loved you because you were kind." Silence filled the room. "I don't know if I can trust you again," she admitted. "But I know this. I don't want a man who saves me. I want a man who stands beside me." Ethan swallowed. "Then let me earn that." She didn't forgive him that day, but she didn't walk away either. Sometimes love doesn't end when truth appears. Sometimes it pauses, waiting to see what the truth will do next. Ethan expected forgiveness to be loud or dramatic, something spoken in tears or slammed doors. Instead, Lena gave him distance, and that silence was far more painful. She didn't block his number, but she didn't answer it either. Days passed, then weeks. Ethan learned quickly that wealth could not buy time, trust, or peace of mind. For the first time in his life, he was powerless. And that realization humbled him in ways no business loss ever had. He stopped sending gifts, stopped trying to fix things quietly in the background. Instead, he showed up where he was allowed to, at the cafe, ordering the same cheap coffee, sitting at the same table, leaving before closing time. He never mentioned money, never mentioned help. He only asked how her day was, and when she answered politely but briefly, he accepted that too. Lena watched him carefully. She expected him to disappear once things became uncomfortable. Rich men always did, but Ethan didn't vanish. He didn't pressure her. He didn't explain himself again or beg for forgiveness. He simply existed, patient, quiet, human, and that unsettled her more than anger ever could. She was struggling again. The bookstore closure meant fewer hours at the cafe, and the fear she knew so well crept back into her chest at night. Yet she refused to let Ethan rescue her. If she rebuilt trust, it would be on equal ground, or not at all. One evening, a storm flooded part of the neighborhood. The cafe's back storage was damaged, supplies ruined. Lena stayed late helping clean up, exhausted and soaked. When she stepped outside, she found Ethan there, sleeves rolled up, hair wet from the rain. "You didn't have to come," she said. "I know," he replied, "but I wanted to." Without asking permission, he grabbed a mop and worked beside her until midnight. No talk, no money, just effort. When they finished, Lena handed him a towel. Their fingers brushed and neither pulled away immediately. That night something shifted. Lena began to see Ethan not as a rich man pretending to be poor, but as a man learning how to be honest. He talked about his insecurities now, about how lonely power felt, about how terrifying it was to strip away the armor wealth provided. He didn't romanticize struggle anymore. He respected it. "I don't want to be protected," Lena told him one night as they sat on the curb sharing fries. "I want to be chosen." Ethan nodded. "Then choose me too," knowing everything. The real test came when Lena was offered a job opportunity in another city. It was small, uncertain, but hers. She told Ethan casually, watching his reaction. "You should take it," he said without hesitation. She blinked. "You'd be okay with that?" "No," he admitted softly. "But loving you means not trapping you." That answer broke something open inside her. For weeks, Lena wrestled with fear and longing. Trust didn't return all at once. It arrived slowly, in moments, in the way Ethan listened instead of leading, in the way he asked permission before helping, in the way he let her walk away without chasing. One night, Lena stood outside his old penthouse, staring up at the building she had once unknowingly passed. She realized something important then. Ethan had stepped out of his world for her. Now she needed to decide whether she could step into it, not as someone saved, but as someone equal. She rang the bell. Ethan opened the door stunned. She walked in slowly, looking around, not in awe but understanding. "This doesn't scare me," she said. "Lies do." He nodded. "Then I won't lie again." She took a breath. "I don't forgive you yet, but I'm willing to try." Ethan's eyes filled with tears he didn't hide. That night, they didn't talk about the past. They cooked together, burned the food, laughed. It wasn't a reunion, it was a restart. Love, she realized, wasn't about how much someone could give. It was about how much they were willing to unlearn. Love didn't return all at once. It arrived quietly, in careful steps, as if afraid of being broken again. Lena moved slowly, guarding her heart not out of bitterness, but wisdom. Ethan accepted that pace without question. He had learned that real love didn't rush, didn't demand forgiveness as payment for remorse. It waited, and so he waited. They began again not as a grand romance, but as two people relearning how to stand beside each other. Ethan stopped hiding his world, but he also stopped letting it define him. When Lena asked questions about his work, he answered honestly, without pride, without apology. When she shared her fears about independence, he listened without offering solutions unless she asked. For the first time, there was no imbalance, no savior, no secret. Lena noticed the change most in the small things. Ethan no longer paid attention to price tags. He paid attention to people. He showed up when promised. He left when she needed space. He learned her silences as carefully as her laughter, and slowly, trust stitched itself back together. Not perfectly, but sincerely. One afternoon, Lena received the job offer he had been waiting for, this time in the same city. It wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. She called Ethan, voice shaking with excitement. He celebrated her achievement without making it about himself. That night she cried in his arms, not from fear, but relief. She realized then that he wasn't trying to win her back with wealth. He was choosing her every day with humility. Months passed. The city changed seasons. Their relationship grew roots. Ethan invited Lena to one of his company events, not as a guest hidden at the edge, but as his partner. "You don't have to come," he said honestly, "but I want you there, with me, as you..." Lena hesitated, then nodded. The night of the event, she wore a simple dress, no borrowed glamour. When she stepped into the room, whispers followed, but not because of her clothes. It was because of how Ethan looked at her, not as a trophy, not as proof, but as home. When someone asked her what she did, she answered proudly. When someone hinted at how lucky she was, she smiled politely and said, "We chose each other." Later that evening, Ethan stood before the crowd to speak. He hadn't planned to say what came next, but truth had become his only language. "I used to believe success meant building towers," he said calmly, "but I learned that the strongest foundations are built on honesty, respect, and love without conditions." Lena felt tears rise, not from surprise, but recognition. Afterward, on the quiet balcony overlooking the city, Ethan took her hands. "I pretended to be poor because I was afraid," he said. "But loving you taught me something money never could, how to be brave without armor." Lena exhaled slowly. "And loving you taught me that truth matters more than comfort." He smiled gently. "Did I win your heart?" She laughed softly, shaking her head. "No, you earned my trust." The heart followed. Time continued forward, as it always does. They didn't live in a fairy tale. They argued, they learned, they grew, but there were no more masks, no more pretending. One evening, as they walked past the cafe where they first met, Lena stopped. "This is where you lied to me," she teased. Ethan groaned. "Worst decision of my life." She squeezed his hand. "And the one that led you to becoming the man you are now." He looked at her, eyes full. "Would you have loved me if I'd told the truth that first day?" She thought for a moment. "Maybe, but I wouldn't have known you the way I do now." They stood there watching people pass, rich, poor, everything in between. Lena realized something profound then. Ethan hadn't won her heart by pretending to be poor. He had won it by choosing honesty when it mattered most, by letting go of power, by loving without control. And Ethan realized something too. The greatest wealth he had ever known was not in buildings or numbers. It was in being loved for who he truly was, without disguise. As they walked away hand in hand, the city lights glowing around them, neither of them needed to pretend anymore. Because love, when built on truth, was richer than anything money could buy.